Three things dismissive avoidants say before they discard you. Before a dismissive avoidant discards you, they rarely explode or confess that they're done. They don't always shout. They don't always cheat. They don't always announce a dramatic ending. Instead, they say small sentences, cold sentences, subtle sentences. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the warning signs completely. Today, we're breaking down three things a dismissive avoidant says right before they emotionally detach and walk away. And once you hear these phrases, you'll never unhear them again. The first thing they say is, "I just need space." Now, space in a healthy relationship can be normal. Everyone needs time alone. Everyone needs breathing room. But when a dismissive avoidant says this before discarding you, the tone is different. It's not a request. It's a withdrawal. You'll notice the shift. Less eye contact, shorter replies, longer gaps between texts. Plans become maybe. Affection becomes not right now. And when you ask what's wrong, they say, "Nothing. I just need space." What they really mean is, your emotional needs are starting to feel like pressure. Dismissive avoidants value independence above intimacy. When closeness increases, their nervous system interprets it as loss of freedom. So instead of communicating fear, they retreat. They create distance to regulate themselves. But here's the painful part. That space often becomes permanent. Because while you're waiting respectfully, thinking you're being mature, they're slowly detaching. They're convincing themselves they don't need this relationship. They're rewriting the story in their mind. And the more you try to reconnect, the more they feel suffocated. So when you hear, "I just need space," don't panic, but do pay attention, because sometimes it's not a pause. It's the beginning of the exit. The second thing they say is, "You're too much." It might come out softer. You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. Why does everything have to be so deep? Dismissive avoidants struggle with emotional intensity, especially emotions that require vulnerability. If you ask for reassurance, you're dramatic. If you express hurt, you're making a big deal. If you want clarity, you're creating problems. Instead of meeting you emotionally, they minimize you, because acknowledging your feelings would require them to access their own. And that is uncomfortable, so they flip it. Now you're the issue. Now your needs are excessive. Now your desire for connection feels like criticism to them. This is the moment many partners start shrinking themselves, talking less, asking for less, needing less, trying to become easier. But here's the truth. You're not too much. You're just asking the wrong person to meet you at your depth. When a dismissive avoidant says you're too much, it's often because they're emotionally unavailable. And instead of admitting incapacity, they project inadequacy onto you. This phrase is dangerous because it slowly erodes your self-esteem. You start doubting your emotional reality. You start wondering if love really is too much. But love requires presence. And if they can't stay present, they will eventually leave. Not because you overwhelm them, but because intimacy exposed their limits. The third thing they say before discarding you is, "Maybe we're just not compatible." This one sounds rational, mature, logical, and that's why it hurts differently. By the time they say this, they've already detached emotionally. They've already reduced contact. They've already stopped trying. And now they frame the ending as a mismatch. Compatibility becomes the scapegoat. Not avoidance, not fear, not emotional shutdown. Just we're different. But here's what often happens. You weren't incompatible when things were light. You weren't incompatible when intimacy was shallow. You weren't incompatible when expectations were low. The incompatibility appears only when the relationship asks for depth, commitment, consistency, future planning. That's when dismissive avoidants feel trapped. So instead of saying, "I'm scared of depending on someone," they say, "We're not right for each other." It protects their self-image. It keeps them from feeling like the problem. And it allows them to leave without confronting their attachment wounds. The discard is rarely explosive. It's quiet, calculated, emotionally distant. You'll feel confused more than angry, because there was no clear fight, no clear betrayal, just a slow fading, and a final sentence that sounds reasonable. Here's what you must understand. Dismissive avoidants don't discard because you're unworthy. They discard because sustained intimacy activates their fear of engulfment. They want connection, but only on their terms. Only when it doesn't threaten autonomy. And the moment the relationship requires emotional labor, they start looking for the exit. So if you hear these three phrases, I need space, you're too much, maybe we're not compatible, don't just listen to the words, watch the behavior, watch the withdrawal, watch the emotional shutdown, and most importantly, don't chase. Chasing reinforces their belief that closeness equals pressure. Instead, hold your dignity, hold your standards, because someone who is capable of secure love won't label your emotions as excessive. They won't need indefinite space to tolerate intimacy, and they won't suddenly discover incompatibility when things get real. The truth is simple. Avoidants don't discard loudly. They detach quietly, and by the time they speak the final sentence, they've already left in their mind. If you recognize these patterns, don't try to convince them to stay. Let them go, because the right partner won't fear your depth. They'll meet it.